Hi guys, and welcome back to Pass and Move. And for today's episode, we're going to do something we haven't done in a while actually, tactics and team guide. But the team we're going with here today is actually going to be Arsenal. And as you can see here, I just set up the game, and you can see how I look right over there, perfect picture, really, profile picture. But anyways, yeah, I haven't done anything at all, so this is just literally just to show you straight away. This is how it is when it looks, of course, when you start a new career. And I'm just going to show you my opinion on how to get the best out of your team, how to pick your tactics, and just a guide about who to sell, who to buy, what to do, type of thing. So the first thing I always do, first of all, let's just skip these meetings. The first thing I always do is check this squad. So I go into my assistants reports. I've got Lucas here, and I quickly arrange everyone in accordance of abilities. So normally what you want to do is try and get your best 11 players playing all together. Of course, it's not always possible. Sometimes you have to drop some people according to the team shape or whatever works best, really. So first of all, I just quickly select from the top about 11 players, and I try and see what type of formation I can come up with, which will try and include as many of these players as possible. So we've got Alexis Sanchez on an inside forward. Of course, you should click on each player, just don't look at your assistants thing. And you can see, what type of positions he can play in, and what type of roles, and what suits him best. We've got Ozil as an advanced playmaker, and Santi Cazorla as an advanced playmaker in the centre mid position. But of course, it would make sense to play both. Two advanced playmakers. But anyways, he's capable for deep lying playmaker role as well. So we'll get into that in just a second. Czech as a goalkeeper, of course, don't really need to have another look. Aaron Ramsey, deep line playmaker. Granit Xhaka, deep line playmaker, also capable of playing in defensive mid as a deep line playmaker, of course, but he's also got a number of different roles. We'll go through them in just a minute. But first, we just need to pick our team formation, our shape, and then we'll go into the other details later. Mustafi as a centre back. Coquelin as a centre mid, which is a bit strange. I think he's more of a defensive midfielder. Giroud as a target man. Chamberlain as a winger, and Welbeck finally as capable of playing in both positions as a striker and then as an inside forward. So if we just have a quick look again at those 11 players there with the highest ability according to my assistant, of course, you can still be your own judge. It looks like we're going to have to play a 4-2-3-1, which is a bit, to be honest, with most of these team talks, the tactics and team guides sort of thing, I think most of the top teams are set out for playing as a 4-2-3-1. And yeah, as you can see, we've got a left winger here, advanced playmaker, centre mids. We're going to have to keep out some of these centre mids here just for the sake of the team shape. We've got a striker here, two wingers as well, capable wingers. So it just seems to make sense that we play as a 4-2-3-1. I think the rest of the squad as well are built as a 4-2-3-1. Sometimes, of course, you take into consideration your top 11, but you also have to take into consideration where you have your best numbers in the squad. No point playing a 4-2-3-1, but then you don't have enough backup players for it as well. You're not always going to have your top 11 playing all the time. So it does seem like the rest of the squad are made for a 4-2-3-1 as well. And I think we can pretty much start into tactics now. So we're just quickly going to put up a 4-2-3-1 that's already set. And I think you also have this nice little neat thing where there's an assistant manager's recommendation of where you should, what formation you should use. I think you should at least take into consideration your assistant manager's recommendation. He's got his own opinion as well. So 4-2-3-1 seems to be the consensus. So we're going to go with that. And normally with the 4-2-3-1, what happens is teams, players they just put, let's say, a deep line playmaker and a box-to-box midfielder alongside each other. And the issue with this is that it's too attacking. This formation is way too attacking. So when you play two centre mids, you can't play the usual bit, which is one defensive, one supporting, and one attacking here in the it's actually a three-man midfield. You have to play both of these a bit more defensive. So the one that typically works best for me, and what I've noticed, is a centre mid on defend and a deep lying playmaker on support. Both of these will hold their position, as you can see here, And they'll still support enough, they'll close down people enough, and they'll do their damage. Deep line playmaker, of course, can still play up to the players that are above them high here. The top 4 here is very crucial about how you play them, and these are the ones that you want them to cause damage. They're the ones who are not going to do too much defending, so that's just how it is in a 4-2-3-1. So you have to play the 2 midfielders a bit more defensive than you would in other formations. For example, if you play the 4-4-2, you could get away with the deep line playmaker and the box-to-box midfielder, but you won't get away with it here. So I think in this area of the field, your hands kind of forced. You do have to type of really play as a centre mid defender, deep line playmaker. You don't have much of a choice. Ozil's best as an advanced playmaker on attack, and Giroud's best as a target man on. When I play a striker, if he's by himself, I have to have him on support. I know some people don't like it, but I just always he has to be involved in the play. So yeah, apparently he's best as a target man, which probably is suited, but it just won't suit this team because it looks like the rest of the squad are made up for playing possession based. Also, the formation doesn't really suit a direct type of play. We can't really use the target man there, so it makes sense to try and see if you can play in different roles. It says he can play as a complete forward on support. He does that decently enough. A couple of things are a bit low, but not too bad. Agility and maybe passing is not too good, but he does have vision, so that's good. Defensive forward apparently as well, and support. I've never personally experimented too much with this, so maybe if you want to. But I've never found a striker who's got good positioning. Deep line forward, sorry, might be something you're interested in. False 9 as well, maybe. Doesn't still have the agility for that and passing, but it's decent. He'll do a job basically. So I think I'll go for the complete forward when it comes to Giroud. On support. That way he can still use his heading, his strength and all that sort of stuff that he would normally have as a target man. Now on the left wing will be Sanchez, so I think you want Sanchez to be a bit more attacking. First of all, it looks like we're going for a possession based team, so we're gonna the best one's gonna be mentality of control, and so we'll just keep that in mind as we do what we do. So inside forward on support would be Sanchez. Our best right winger would be, according to my assistant, it's actually Chamberlain and not Walcott. So he seems to be a winger, even Walcott's a winger, so we'll just keep him on winger basically. So we have an inside forward, a winger, an advanced playmaker and a striker as a complete forward. Now that seems to have our top half sorted. Now normally as an inside forward you want to back him up with a wing back if he's on attack, so you should have the wing back on support, the wingers on support, so the full back should be on attack. And now that leaves us with the centre back positions. Of course our goalkeepers are both comfortable as being goalkeepers, not sweeper keepers, so we'll keep them as is. In terms of centre backs, we've got a number of them here. I don't think Rob Holding's technically good enough just yet, but we'll get into that in just a minute. Looks like Shokradan Mustafi is the only one capable as playing as a ball playing defender, so I think we have other options here. I think it's just him, so I would say you should play centre defensive midfielders on defend duty as is, but whenever you play Mustafi, maybe take advantage of him being a ball playing centre back, and just play him that. But for now, you just keep it on centre defend and see how it is. We're going to be sometimes you have to change according to your player, of course, but the tactics remain the same. So for example, Lucas is a false 9, and that's perfect for possession based football. Let me see if we can read the description. So in some ways more similar to a more advanced playmaker, unconventional lone striker centre forward who drops into midfield. So it's perfect. He always tries to keep possession type of thing, and I think it's just perfect. So whenever you play Lucas, I'd advise you to move onto the false 9 position role rather, and don't stick to the complete forward because that's not really what he's about. I think. Anyways, we'll have a quick look. I guess he's decent enough as well, but some things like heading, concentration, maybe strength isn't too great. So I think it's just best play him as a false 9. It suits your system as well. The only reason we're changing Giroud is because he doesn't suit our system. But yeah, I think this is the team you can go with in terms of tactics. For me personally, team instructions, I like to keep it as simple as possible. So we are playing possession based. I only like to keep about 4 instructions. I don't really like doing like some other people, 10 to 13 or whatever. So just really simply lower tempo, shorter passing, and I always love my teams to be more expressive and roam from positions. I just think it makes it incredibly hard to keep track of your attackers, because remember, this is these instructions are all to do with the attack, so the attackers are going to be the ones who run from position. In terms of build up, they'll be more expressive, they have freedom to be, they won't always be stuck to lower tempos or shorter passing. They'll be more expressive, they'll be allowed to make some decisions for themselves. Of course, if you're not comfortable with your team doing that, you don't have to pick it. This is just my personal opinion. This 4 is completely fine. But of course, if you're going for more possession, you can easily do things like close down more, push up higher, play the offside trap because you're playing a high line. You could even retain possession if you wanted and work the ball into box, for example. Some people like to play out of defense as well. But yeah, these things I'm just not really a fan of. Too many instructions here. You 10 instructions, you turned your players into robots basically. But it's really up to you. So I would say you should play a 4-2-3-1 like that, and if you want your other tactics, if you want to make use of the 3 slots, do everything the same. Don't keep it as this. Do it the same as the other team. And maybe your mentalities, I like just to change the mentality. So you can do one where it's attacking. Attacking is not necessarily suited for possession-based football, but sometimes you just need to push on and try and get a winner when the other teams got like 10 men behind the ball or whatever. And then with the counter, I don't think 4-2-3-1 really suits the counter. I think if you're trying to play a bit more countering, for example, let's say if you're playing against Barcelona and you don't really fancy your Arsenal team just yet, you can play a 4-4-1-1 and keep most of the roles the same. Of course, the inside forward Sanchez will have to play as a winger just temporarily, and I think you will probably keep most of the instructions the same. Just change the formation because it suits the 4-4-1-1, suits the counter a bit more than 4-2-3-1. Of course, you can still play 4-2-3-1 countering football, but it just won't be too great. If your players are too attacking, how can they help out the defenders and then hit them on the counter attack? Doesn't really make too much sense. But anyways, I think that's all in terms of tactics. In terms of who you should sell, who you should keep, a good rule of thumb actually is so for example, Arsenal are supposed to be one of the leading teams in the Premier Division, so all of their players should be leading players basically. So Peter Cech, leading player for most Premier Division sides. First of all, you should go to your staff, check out your coaching teams, who's got the most judging ability. So we've got Boro Primorac, so you should use him whenever you're seeing your coaching reports. Cech sorted, Ospina. He's a backup, so you don't have to worry too much about him. He's only considered a decent player. So what you might want to do, we've got other key areas that we actually need to address, but this one, if you want to address this one, what you could do is sell Ospina and get someone in who's got potential. So you don't want to replace him with someone who's already a leading player, then you're going to have trouble with Peter Cech and the other goalkeepers. So just get someone young with potential who could eventually replace Cech. He is 34 years of age, so it's not an issue, and you can of course replace him eventually, slowly with time, and give your younger goalkeeper a chance every now and then in cup games and whatnot. So the right back position, actually, you've got some decisions to make really. Hector Bellerin's both the youngest right back as well as the one with the most ability, so he kind of has a decision to make. Do you buy a right back who's very capable of playing as a leading player of the Premier Division? Because both Debuchy and Jenkinson are both just decent players only. In fact, Jenkinson's not even ready for the league yet. He's only a Sky Bet Championship. So what I would do is I'd actually send him back down, to be honest. He's 24. It's unlikely that he'd even be ready for the Premier Division at all. You might be better off selling him. So Debuchy, you have a choice of selling him. He is susceptible to injury, so maybe it might be better off getting that type of player out of your team. He's worth 3.4 million. Maybe you can get in either a ready-made right back to give some competition to Hector Bellerin, or if you're not comfortable with that and you want Bellerin to be to actually go into the potential of being one of the best right backs in the world, what you might do is just get another potential right back in as well, just to compete with Bellerin. Or you can of course just keep Debuchy as a decent backup. He is a decent player after all. In terms of the left back positions, I think this is one of the areas in the squad you definitely have to improve. Both Nacho Monreal and Gibbs are only considered good players, so you need someone who's really a leading or a star or even world class, whatever you want, whatever you can find really. I think you should decide which one you want to keep and which one you want to sell. Of course, the more obvious option is to sell Monreal because he's Spanish. He's not an English homegrown talent. He's also 30 years of age, so you're probably going to get your most money out of him now. and you can always replace him with someone who's either a leading. I think you should actually replace him with a leading and have Gibbs as a backup to whoever that left back that you've brought in is. In the central of defence, you've got a couple of options here. Rob Holding seems to be the one with the least ability. He is only suited for Championship, so in fact you should send him out on loan and move him to the under 23s for now. Of course, you do have key injuries to deal with, such as Mertesacker 5 to 6 months, Polista 2 to 3 months, even Welbeck's out for a while with 6 to 7 months. So you do have to keep that in consideration. Either you bring on someone on loan, or you trust in a player such as Rob Holding, who isn't ready for the Premier League division just yet. And it seems to be that you've got some decent players here. Koscielny is probably leading player, he is there. Mertesacker is only considered as good. Polista is only as good, and Mustafi is leading. So that, I think we're okay with here. We've got Koscielny leading, Mustafi leading. That should be your first choice centre-back pairing. And I think Mertesacker, you can eventually replace him when he comes back from injury. If you want to sell him and get someone in with potential, or maybe just promote Rob Holding once he's ready for the Premier League. And you can say probably the same about Polista, maybe sell him or keep him as backup. It really depends on if you like him or not. But what I like to do is have 2 players per position. One who's ready for the Premier League, a leading player, his star, your star players basically, and one who's one with potential, enough to do some rotation, enough to put in some competition with his positional rival, and just to eventually replace him as he ages, and eventually good competition increases the type of players you have. So we've got in centre mid, we've got 5 options here, so I would be tempted to sell one of them. But really what you're going to do here is, because you have too many deep-lying playmaker type of players, you need to decide who's capable of playing as a centre mid on defend, and who's capable of playing as a deep-lying playmaker. Now, out of pure ability, you've got Cazorla and Ramsey, but both of them are both not suited at all for the centre mid on defend duty. So you'd be better off picking someone else. I think for this team, you've probably got Nini and Coquelin, definitely suited for the centre mid on defend. I think even Xhaka can actually play as a centre mid on defend. So you do have a couple of options, but I think you'd have to sell one of them. Cazorla is your best centre midfielder at this time, but he will decline, of course. He is 31 years of age, so it depends on who you want to keep. So the 3 who can play as a centre mid on defence are these 3, and Xhaka can also play as a deep line playmaker, so it's these 3 for deep line playmaker. It's just up to you who to sell. It's a lot of competition in centre mids. It's really up to you who you sell and who you keep. And if you're asking me my opinion, I think Nini will probably be the player to go. He does have potential. Maybe it should be Coquelin because he's only considered as good. But that would mean playing Xhaka as a centre mid on defend when he has a lot of good, vision and passing as a deep line playmaker that's more suited to him. So you might be better off choosing whether to sell off Ramsey, Xhaka or Cazorla, or maybe you could, rotate them for just a year's time, see who can play and see who makes up their potential, and sell the other one later on, or you could play someone else. So, for example, you could push someone up into advanced playmaker role because Mesut Ozil is the only one. So he's the star one, of course. I think a world-class player, as you can see. So you'd be better off giving him some backup potential, sort of, to him, and so you can get rid of. Sorry, not get rid of. You can push up Cazorla maybe to advanced playmaker and play him as a backup to him. That's the option, of course. Walcott, Chamberlain. Chamberlain should be a leading playmaker. Theo Walcott's decent backup. You can, of course, sell him and bring in someone with potential. It will be in Sanchez, I'd say, keep him on. It will be ready for Premier League, so it's perfect backup for Sanchez whenever he needs to be rested or whatnot. So I think that's pretty much all we have to say about the tactics and the team guide. You've got a decent amount of money in 39 million. You could do a lot of damage with that, and you're under the budget with 500 wage budget, so you're really safe. Honestly, financial status rich is an understatement. No debt, no loans. Oh, I thought there were no debt, no loans. Maybe that's just real life. I don't know. But anyways, you're sorted basically. Your projections are insane. You'll have hundreds of millions of pounds to spend, and really Arsenal are a perfect team to manage in this Football Manager 2017. Anyways, if you did enjoy the episode, then please do, of course, hit the like button and subscribe for more daily Football Manager 2017 content. And as always, thank you guys for watching.